Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Good to see you again, and I hope you guys have been enjoying some of the deck profiles and ideas this week. I've had a lot of fun testing out a lot of these decks over the past probably like 3 weeks to a month. Reiju is actually one of them that I'm most excited about, and not to spoil it, but this one we actually will have 2 deck profiles, and I want to show you one kind of like a standard list of Reiju that we'll probably be seeing in OP06, and then another one that is not standard whatsoever that I have been running and testing, and I am so in love with it. I'm not gonna lie, I am so in love with it. But without further ado, just to get into kind of the standard list, this one I'm just gonna go over pretty quickly because I know a lot of people have seen this. The only changes that I made recently was because of the ban list and you know, Sakazuki not being in the meta in the future, I actually decided to take out the 4-cost pudding, and instead I put in a Cosette. I had 2 4-cost puddings, or no, 3 4-cost puddings, excuse me, and I put in 2 Cosettes, and then I put in the 4th Jerma 6 event card for some more search power there. But yeah, to start us off, the Jerma Kingdom stage, excuse me, is going to be like, I mean, this is the whole reason you run the list of the Jerma 6 package, okay? You run this because it allows you to just trash 1 card and then look at the top 3, reveal a Jerma card. Your whole deck is Jerma. Like, there's, I think, 4 cards that aren't, if I'm not mistaken, and that's Kaya. That's it. It's just in there for a 2k counter, or if you have like the wildest brick of a hand ever, which sometimes is the case. You might want to play that. But yeah, the stage card is going to allow you to really find the pieces you need, get the cards you want in trash. It just does everything for you. And then with leader effect, using all of these cards that we're about to talk about, you get to draw one, which is fantastic. So 4 of the Kaya, it's really in there just for a 2k. 4 of Sora, 2k counter again. I have played this once or twice randomly to get a card, but it's very few and far between actually using this ability. I'm not massive on using it, but it's situational. Like, sometimes I just needed the 4-cost EG and to get him out of trash to get the 7-cost onto the board, but it really just kind of depends. Cosette is really nice. There's hardly any matches that I've played with this list that I haven't been 2 or more Dawn less than my opponent. I mean, it's very few and far between that I have actually played a match and not been down like 3 or 4 Dawn mostly. So this is just it's a 1k blocker. Very free blocker in some of those like weird stages of the game where, you know, like, man, I don't run a lot of blockers in this list because this list tends to be a lot of counter power and a lot of drawing. So, but occasionally your opponent just kind of gets the better of you, or you just kind of draw a little rough. And this is just that one, like, it's just to hold the line, you know, just for a second. And Yonji, I run 3 Yonjis into 3 of the blockers as well. So 3 baby Yonjis and 3 big Yonjis. Just to have a little bit of that blocker, but it's also a great attack. Yet again, if you have equal Dawn or less, you get to have a 6k blocker. So it's a great block, but also a potential attacker right there. Reiju, oh whoops, I meant to hit the I. This is your draw power. You're getting 3 cards that turn. Well, 4 actually, because you're drawing for turn, you're playing Reiju, you're Dawn -1, you're pulling out the 4-cost Reiju from trash, and you get to draw 2 for that and 1 for your ability. You drew 4 cards that turn. It's really crazy. It's pretty insane. So this is what gets you back into the fight. So you're countering out quite a bit, or you're just letting cards go to trash because you need to recycle them for your next turn's effects. But if they're going at your life, you're countering 100%. 100%, because it's just so easy to draw back the cards that you need in the necessary turns. You also want to stay at a low hand size so that you do get the value of the 4-cost Reiju, being at 5 cards or less. So it's kind of one of those, kind of one of the most important parts of the deck right there. Niji is fantastic, being able to Dawn -1 here and get the 5-cost onto the board, bounce a 4-cost or KO a 2-cost. Both great effects. Amazing. Absolutely amazing card. The 4-cost Ichiji, being able to play the Rush 7-cost that also gives -2000. This allows really strong board clears, as well as just establishing a card potentially on turn 2 that your opponent won't be able to deal with for the rest of the game. It's it's really, really annoying. Depending on the matchup, your opponent is horrified to see this card. I've really liked just having this card up against the yellow matchup. Just feels great. They can't really do much about a 7k attack every excuse me, every single turn. So pretty fantastic. And so that's it for, like, you know, the Power Rangers, if you will, all the siblings, older and younger. But then you got Judge. I've been running this at 2. I've seen some people run it at 3. I've seen crazy people run it at 4. That's nuts. But 2 seems fine. Like, you just find this card super easy, and you only need to see it once per game. Yeah, pretty much just want to see it once per game. If I could get away with running it at 1, I would, but I don't think I can. So I like it at 2. It's pretty good. You know, it's not like the card you need to have to win the game. The rest of your cards just kind of do that for you, but it's super solid. If you're able to get to that Dawn mark and then play this out, it can basically just be a massive tempo swing that your opponent just can't come back from. And yeah, so now on to the deck list that I've been working on lately, and I have been loving. I haven't fleshed out all of the ratios just yet, but this is an Animal Kingdom Pirate build of Reiju that is so strong. It is so strong, and a lot of the matchups feel really good. The only matchups that didn't feel that great were Sakazuki, and that's kind of gone now. Gecko Moria is kind of hit or miss. I don't love the matchup, but I don't hate it either. It just kind of depends. With them not having Great Eruption anymore, it does make the matchup a little bit easier, though, for sure. Yeah, and so to give you an idea of what this Reiju list is comprised of and why I run certain cards, Who's Who is the blue 1-cost, and you get to draw top 5 cards and look for a Animal Kingdom Pirates. It's good. Most of the deck is Animal Kingdom Pirates. I believe we run, let's see, 36. So it has 32 potential hits. The odds of missing with this are like astronomically low. If you somehow do, it's impressive. But just a reminder, the leader effect is your turn once per turn. When one of the Dawn cards on your field is returned to your Dawn deck, draw 1 card. Okay, I'm going to go over a few cards very quickly and then get into why some of the pieces in this deck just work really well. So Black Maria, 2-cost blocker, just nice against yellow sometimes. Searchable. It's just nice to have like a little cheap blocker, maybe after you use 9-cost Kaido, or you just don't have enough Dawn to play down 2 blockers that turn. Really depends. Sasaki at 2 of, this is just an extra 2k counter that you can search. There's other 2Ks that you can use. This is just one that's searchable through Animal Kingdom Pirates Who's Who, so I like that. 4-cost ulti. This card is pretty much in the list because 1, it's a great stat line, 4-cost 5k, 1k counter, searchable. You can find your 5-cost kid with this card. 5-cost blocker kid is the toughest part about this list, is that this card cannot be searched. So ulti, right, allows you to look at the top 3 and you can add any card to your hand. Doesn't matter if it's blue, purple, black, green, yellow, doesn't matter, right? You can add it to your hand, and then you place the rest at the top or bottom of your deck. So you can actually set up the top 2 that you're going to draw into as well, or you can just bottom deck them if they're cards that you don't need. Maybe it's dead cards, maybe it's useless counter that you don't need in the moment. put him down to the bottom. Get on to maybe finding your blockers or something. So page 1 ulti combo, I pretty much just have this in the list as an option. Like, 2k counter, love it, great. But the page 1, they don't have to combo. They just feel very good if you do in certain matchups. You get to usually before in other lists, you would play this combination and you would be down 2 cards, right? Well, with this deck list, I'm playing this card down, both of these, and I'm drawing 1 card still. So I can get that counter back into hand, or I can get a play for the next turn. It's really nice as like a early tempo that your opponent will have to deal with at some point once you start to play a lot of blockers. 4-cost law is get 2 cards out of your opponent's hand, and I get to draw 1 because of the Dawn -1 effect. It's a pretty good blocker, you know, 1k counter. X-Drake, I don't play this card very often, but occasionally at the end of a game, it just kind of wins you the match. Especially against yellow, if they have, let's say, like 1 life left, 1 card in hand, you can play this card, guarantee that whatever they get out of life, well, I guess maybe not guarantee because they have Kikanoju, but more than likely you can stop a Sanji from being able to be played. You can stop, you know, a 2k counter from them having that in hand, but you did play 5 Dawn, so it's not really like that was relevant. But yeah, sometimes, very, very rare. It's just a nice 2k counter. We've talked about Eustace Captain Kidd, but being able to have any of these Dawn -1 effects not actually take you down on Dawn and just bring you back up to where you just were, and you get to draw a card, insane. So this card is like I would argue like the MVP of the list. If you can get this, well, I would say the second MVP. We're getting to the MVP in just a second, but this card is amazing in how it performs with the rest of, you know, the list, and it's also very tricky to remove with how much this deck can draw. You have so much counter power. You have endless counter power, and yeah, I think that this is the one card that I usually mulligan for. If I have it and I'm happy with the rest of my hand, then I'm good. But sometimes it can be kind of hard to find. But now the MVP of the deck, Queen. Queen is the GOAT. Queen cannot be beat. This card is Dawn -1, draw 3, trash 1. I mean, it's draw 2, trash 1, then you get to draw 1. But essentially, you're drawing 3 cards, trashing 1. It's a +2, you know? Well, +1, arguably, if you think about playing it onto the field. But it's so good. It's so good. Your queen finds your other queens. And then your who's who finds your queen, which finds your other queens, which finds a who's who, which finds your other queens. Like, it's an endless cycle of you having an unlimited amount of blockers and an unlimited amount of card draw. It's absolutely fantastic. And I also run 3 of King. King is really nice in removing a lot of those 4-cost bodies. It's also pretty big cost and nice stat line, so your opponent trying to remove it tends to be a little tricky sometimes. This card is just fantastic. It's weird, though, with this card, you can't really get it down on curve a lot of the times, because a lot of the times you're trying to, like on your 5 Dawn or 6 Dawn turn, you arguably want to play 5-cost Kid, but it just depends. It depends on what their board state looks like at turn 3, what your hand looks like. Sometimes you might just want to play King over the Eustace Captain Kid, but it's kind of a tough one. It just depends on the situation, but I really love that card. Kill KO with 4 costs or less, and don't forget, you get to draw a card. I know I've said it a billion times, but you get to draw a card. Eustace Captain Kid being a 7-cost, 8k stat line, very difficult to deal with. The on-play effect, as well as when attacking, allows you to draw a card, but also bring your leader up to a 6k stat line. It's not insane to have a 6k leader in this list, just because you have so many 6k blockers that essentially you're already a 6k. A lot of the times when your opponent's attacking you, You can just rest your blocker and either completely stop a 5k, or you can rest your blocker and pitch a page 1 just to get out of a 6k swing. So love this card. This one feels really nice too, because just being able, sometimes there's turns where you don't want to use a Dawn -1 card. You might just want to play like a ulti or something, just to get, you know, take one turn to play Who's Who and ulti to get a bunch of counter power into hand. Really just kind of depends. But love the effect of this Captain Kidd. You don't have to use it every single turn, like I said, because you do have such high blockers, but it's, you know, usually speaking, you will. And then 2 of the 9-cost Kaidos. I really like, I had originally 3 9-cost Kaidos, but I actually decided to cut one for the 10 costs, and I'll talk about that here in a second. This card is amazing. The problem is, though, that I've found is that if you use this card without having 5-cost Kidd on the board, it gives you a really awkward next turn, especially if you're at 9 Dawn when you play this. If you're at 10, it's not that bad, but if you're at 9 Dawn when you play this, it becomes a really awkward next turn that you don't really have much going for you, and it feels like if your opponent just kind of ignores Kaido and kind of just goes for life, unless you have a absolute crap ton of counter in hand, it feels weird. So I've taken out one in replace of the 10-cost Kaido. There are a lot of times where I will get to that stage and I'm playing up against a Nell, or I'm potentially playing up against like Gecko Moria or something like that. And if I can play this card down, I get to draw 4 and have a 12k that they're for sure not able to deal with. It is unbelievably satisfying, and it's very easy to find. I know you only run one of it, but it's so easy to find. Between how many queens and who's you'll be playing throughout the match, you will find this card. And honestly, it's the reason I run it as a one of. You don't need this card. It just feels good into certain matchups, but really been enjoying that. And then 4 of the 0-cost event. As you can see, we just went over a ton of cards that have no counter power whatsoever. So you can get a pretty bricked up hand, but not really. I mean, if you take a look, we have 3, 5, 7, 8 cards that do not have counter in this deck. Everything else does, right? But this card alone allows you to ramp through trigger. If you get it off trigger, you can ramp 1 Dawn. I don't run any other ramp in the list. You don't need it. It looks like a very blue-purple Kaido-esque build, but it is more so not worried about ramping as it is, and like getting to the biggest cards that I can, as it is going wide as possible, drawing an endless amount of cards, and having like 10 in hand with 5 on board. You know, it feels really nice. The Thunder Bagua at 2, I don't know exactly how I feel about this card. I don't think the deck needs it, but I did like it at 1. I had it at 1 because there's these weird turns after you use 9-cost Kaido that you only have enough Dawn to play 1 blocker, and then you have 2 Dawn left over that you're like, okay, I could swing 7 with leader, but it actually just feels better to have a Thunder Bagua to kind of defend yourself afterwards. Maybe protect a character on board, maybe protect life, depending on what the situation is. So this is kind of like a weird late game kind of after Kaido kind of idea. Maybe late game you don't have Kaido, you just play down a queen and you have 3 Dawn attached to lead, and then you just leave 2 up for a Thunder Bagua and you're just swinging with everything else. Yeah, I don't mind it at 2. I liked it at 1. But I'm kind of playing with the ratios, like I said. But I'd love to see, you know, what you guys think about this list. If you guys wouldn't mind giving me your own personal feedback. I personally wouldn't say, I wouldn't criticize it until you try it first, though. Try it and you'll be like, wow, all right. It's not bad, actually. It's not bad. I don't think it's the greatest, but it's super fun, and I'm thoroughly enjoying playing it on the sim and testing it out. But I will catch you guys in the next one. Other than that, let me know your thoughts down below. Peace.